tough loss last week, and the bet was I would smash the table if we went to the Super Bowl. But hey, you know what? It looks like, well, it doesn't look like it's not happening. It's not happening, and that was a tough Ravens loss too. So if you're a Ravens fan, my condolences, and if you're a Chiefs fan, congratulations on going to your fourth Super Bowl in 5 years. Crazy, crazy stuff. But just a reminder to you guys, this live show is for you. All right. Are we going to have a good week or what? Stick around till the very end because I'm going to answer any questions you have on my present positions or any of my up and coming moves. So make sure you put your questions in the chat. We had a packed January with tons of guests, and we're going to keep this party going. Seriously. So guys, make sure you hit the like button, share the content, and if you haven't already, check out the BFC merch store. Some of you guys are buying shirts and mugs, and I'm digging it. I love it. I mean, I rave all the time about this polo. Rob did a great job with the logo. Sam, great job with the store. Awesome stuff. And I look forward to continuing to grow this community with all of you guys. All right. Without further hesitation, the CEO of YCRM, Mr. Rick Jordan. Let's bring him in. Rick Jordan, welcome to Buffalo Fireside Chats. How you doing?
What's shaking, Eric? It's good to be here, man. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Now this is your maiden voyage at the BFC, but you're no stranger to social media. You host a podcast yourself, All In with Rick Jordan. Rob's gonna throw the link for that. So guys, check it out. I've been listening to your podcast. I've been listening to snippets, and it's really some good inspirational stuff there. So guys, definitely check that out. Seriously.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about why you started that podcast.
Yeah, it's always a fun story. I learned about personal brands in 2018, and then I found a branding agency, and they straight up told me, it's like, you need a podcast. And that's literally the end of the story, how it started. But then since then, I mean, it's evolved a lot. I mean, I go back and listen to my early episodes. It's pretty cool hearing myself, how I sounded back then, because we're at episode, I think it was 427 is what was published the other day.
Wow.
So it's just been consistent, man. And we're bringing on bigger guests and everything as the brand has grown, the personal brand has grown. And it's made a lot of good impact. It's put a lot of good things out there for us too. It built our network, and quite truly, it's one of the biggest reasons how we were able to take Reach Out public is because of that foundation.
Wow. It really is amazing, especially when you set out to do something. I could use this show as an example. It's just like, I'm going to do a podcast. My buddy's like, yeah, do a podcast for the heck of it. Why not? And I did. If you would have told me I'd be sitting here with CEOs and management teams, I would have never believed. I'm like, yeah, whatever. But isn't it amazing how things just like sort of come together?
It's really cool. Yeah. I mean, stuff just starts to snowball and gates open up. I mean, I talk a lot about this stuff on the show, of course, on the podcast. It's like a lot of times you just really have to start saying yes. Even if you don't understand the true purpose of it right now, that true purpose will reveal itself a little later on.
Yeah.
Just like going public. No joke. Just like going public.
You did have a good clip on gratitude. And, I think that is one of the most important things for success is to be grateful, to have gratitude. And so, guys, check out the podcast. I thought it was a very, very good segment, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
I got to ask you, but I know I'm throwing you curveballs already. Guys, just so you know, I do give a sort of a brief outline to the show, but I always sort of go off road, but that's all right.
I like conversational flow, man.
Yeah. So what is your driver?
Man.
What drives you?
It's a
loaded question. I know
it is. I know, right? And I've got a good answer too. It's a purpose that I feel that's inside of me, and part of this was even in the video. It's like I feel a lot of us on this earth, actually really all of us, are here for the purpose of helping others. I mean, what's the point unless we're all going to live like hermits in the woods in a shack or something like that? It's just, it doesn't make sense for people to be isolationist to themselves, even with your family. If you've got, a partner, kids, whatever, why just go to work, come home, pay bills, and die? There's a lot more to this world that exists beyond that. And I love it because I feel like my purpose is one that's being able to forge a path for those individuals, for every individual that's around me.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of times people feel in the rut. They feel redundant. I know humans, we tend to be creatures of habit.
Yeah.
We like redundancy, but oftentimes it's not good. We like our comfort zone, we like our bubble, and the minute that changes, it's like all hell breaks loose, and people can't handle that. And I think that that's frightening,
It is,
for
yeah. Well,
some people.
change is always difficult to handle. I mean,
Mm.
even with there's no BS about that whatsoever. Can we swear on the show? Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
Yeah, no, no,
Yeah.
this is
Okay.
an open
Great. Great.
platform.
I was trying. Good, awesome. Fantastic. All right. Uh, a lot of people kind of feel that way, and it's. I mean, even just going through these last 2.5 months right now, right, with Reach Out being listed, because
Mm,
now we merged, we closed the transaction, and there's a lot of interesting things out there in the chat rooms too. People don't even think we closed it, right? Is the merger real? All of that. But you take a look at the last 2.5 months, it's like even going into that change, there's a lot of hard work in any kind of change. And I think that's what most people are afraid of, because right now you can just be kind of coasting through whatever it is, wherever it is you want right now. But then you start to think, it's like, why don't I have that? Why am I not where I wanted to be yet? It's like, because you just simply didn't say yes. You didn't actually take the
mm,
action to step towards what you want, because it's going to be hard, but that's okay. Staying the same is just as hard as making the move to get where you
mm.
want to be.
I completely agree. When people complain, "Oh, this is bad, this is bad." Well, what are you doing? What
Yeah.
can you now? Listen, there are people that there are circumstances beyond your control. Sometimes. But I'm telling you, if you take initiative, it's only gonna. There's only a chance it could better you. You know.
Yep. Yep.
So, but yeah, thanks for answering that. Actually, we had
Yeah,
a
man.
recommendation from John Don. If you could turn up your volume just a little bit on your mic, I don't know if
Oh yeah, no problem. Yep.
you bring your mic closer a little bit. So thanks, John Don. I appreciate that.
Thanks, John.
You you talked in a short Rick Jordan bio, which I actually shared a week or so ago, and about how you're put in a position to help people that are taken
Yeah.
advantage of. And ironically, and you guys, my crowd's gonna get this. You're now the CEO of an OTC company, and the OTC is a wondrous place, often filled with management teams that do take advantage of people. So tell me how will a Rick Jordan management team be different from what many investors on this platform are used to?
Yeah. My circle that I choose to surround myself with are very much of the same spirit that I am. Yeah, and it's I mean, if you go back to where I was back when I was a teen, right? When you mentioned that I was put on this place to help protect people that are being taken advantage of. My first career choice was to be a cop, and there's a lot of bad rap that cops have gotten over the past couple of years too, especially since the pandemic, right?
Mm,
But just in a position to be able to serve and protect other people. And even to the point where I had a private security company, but the people that I choose to surround myself have the same mission. They think beyond themselves, and even with our primary growth strategy with reach outs, I look for that in sellers with our acquisition targets. I look for that culture fit in sellers, for those that say, hey, I want to stay on. I want to ride this train with Reach Out, all the way to the moon.
mm,
I examine their heart first. I examine who they are to be like, are you somebody who I want to be here? Before we work it into the deal to offer them a position with the company after we buy them, after we acquire them, they have to fit that same criteria.
mm,
Because typically they built, $4 million, $5 million, $6 million companies in our acquisition targets. That's no small feat, man. To even scale to that
mm,
method, but they hit that brick wall,
mm,
and it's like, what do I need to do next? So
mm.
we end up finding these acquisitions, and it's like, cool. I commend you for what you've done. I want to see how you got there, right? What were your good intentions in getting there, and what are your good intentions going forward? Because that'll determine whether I'm going to offer you a job as part of our deal.
Yeah. I think that is a very good answer. And it is about how you surround yourself with people. You don't just want every acquisition under the sun.
Yeah,
You want the best, you want the brightest, you want the people that are going to be team players. Character matters.
it
I
does.
say this all the time.
Yeah,
Character matters. If that doesn't help define you, then it's hard to let that mold together. It really is.
for sure.
Um,
We've said no to many too for those exact reasons. Culture fit is the biggest. It's the biggest key, man.
Hmm. Right on. Let's talk about your company name.
Yeah.
Let's talk.
And I ate Jenny's ice cream, chocolate chip. I came down because I heard there was chocolate chip ice cream. By the way, I have a whole refrigerator full upstairs. You think I'm kidding? I'm not. God.
He does like
You
chocolate
just
chip
made
ice
my
cream.
day. Thank you. That's fantastic.
It is fantastic. And you know what? Hopefully he takes the ice cream out of the refrigerator and puts it in the freezer.
Yeah.
But I assume I had to bust your balls a little on this because I assume you don't want to continue on as Yingling's ice cream company. Is there a name and ticker change already in process? And have you guys submitted necessary forms with FINRA? How's that whole process working out for you guys?
That's a great. I'll tell you what I've been told, right? Because this is my first rodeo with taking a company public. So I lean on, and this is important when it comes to leadership, right? Because you can only lead people as far as you've gone yourself. So I lean on a lot of other people, like Kevin Harrington, the original Shark, who's on my board, like other individuals who are external counsel for myself. So here's what they've told me, and this leads into probably some other questions, because this one single question plus one other have probably been the biggest questions I've seen out there in the forums, in chat rooms, all of that. When's your name going to be changed, and when you're filing financials? Those two things, right? So the name change. The name change, from what I've told, has to happen after we file our 10K.
Okay.
And then we can submit that. So that's coming up within very short order here, because that's just when they have to be filed. It is within the next, I'm told, within the next couple of days. So I answered somebody's private DM today on iHub, and I was like, yeah, we're taking it day by day right now. And this is important. This is so important, man. There was a complexity with this. And I'll put it this way. The fiscal years with YCRM, with Younglings, and the fiscal year with Reach Out were different. So Younglings ended 10/31 for their year end. Ours ends 12/31, a calendar year, with Reach Out. So we're actually going through two separate audits right now. Yeah, and this is why it's taken. And everyone's like, post the financials, and I'm like, guys, I finally replied today, so I've been sharing this message for your show today, right? Because we're aligning those. Yes, we're aligning those, but at the same time, we're also dealing with two different auditors, because it was another complexity. The 5-year mark, according to SEC guidelines, for an auditor being on an account also ended on 10/31 with this year. So the firm that we're using could not even allow us to continue with that same auditor for the Reach Out side. That auditor is on Youngling's side, but then we have a different auditor assigned because of SEC rules and regulations for the Reach Out with our reverse merger. So it's literally like, I kid you not, I am double paying, right? Because it is two separate auditors, two individual audits, one to file our normal 10K because it's our entity now, right? It's YCRM. I'm the CEO. I'm the chairman of the board now for the 10/31 fiscal year end, and then also our amended 8K for the acquisition of Reach Out, which is a completely separate audit. So as soon as that's filed, then we can file the appropriate documents for both a name change and symbol change, ticker.
Good. I think that answers the question quite well for people that were wondering. And, the name change, ticker change, like all that stuff, that is a big catalyst in the OTC.
Oh, yeah.
That is why you're getting that, the financials, the 10K, all that stuff. And we got to remember, guys, fiscal years vary from company to company. So
our intention is to align those, because I don't want to go through this bullshit ever again. Okay.
No, I would have planned.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I've had CEOs on the show. And they tell us, and like everybody thinks that it's a FINRA, you just do a name change, fill out a form, you turn it in. And I've learned through my due diligence here, it sucks. The process sucks. There's times when a company that has been under a ticker for maybe 3 or 4 years, they got to get filings and information from 10, 12, 13 years ago, 20 years ago. And you may be missing one piece of paperwork that's hanging up your name change, something that's decades old. And it just seems like a half-ass. I mean, I guess it's a thorough process, but I mean, it seems like a pain in the ass, a royal
government
pain in
agency,
the ass,
man.
And actually, I actually wanted to post a question up here from Lisa Matthews. Lisa Matthews has been with the BFC since the get-go. She's a fellow investor, great person. Why does a company that is already established decide to go public, and why choose the OTC?
Yeah, great. And two great questions, right? And there's actually two answers for the first one, because there's two reasons. One is access to public capital. I mean, just hands down. There are greater amounts of investors at larger amounts in the public markets than there is in private. So, I also am not too big on private equity, especially in my industry, because in this industry, we're the first, we call it MSP, managed service provider, the first one to actually independently go public. There's been others that have been acquired, like a printer company bought the IT firm, those kinds of things. But with us, we are the first to go from startup, when literally it was just me founding Reach Out 13 years ago, almost 14 now, because it's 2024, to the point of now where we're public, we're listed on OTC. The second reason is quite literally that, because we are the only ones. I'm no stranger, as we talked about, to personal brand, to social media. Making the big splash is something that helps. Eyeballs actually attract dollars. So as we're continuing to try to build this thing with one of our pillars for cybersecurity for all, we need people to dump dollars into this. We need to continue our growth strategy with acquisitions. We need to continue R&D, because one of our greatest goals is to bring that premium price point that we've been charging for years, make it more accessible to small business, which is 70% of America, man. 70% of America is small business. So I'll answer the second question. Why choose OTC? Because it's a good stepping stone. That's how we saw it. It was a strategic move. There was a lot, because of where our revenues were at already, a lot of counsel that I had that said, hey, just go straight to NASDAQ. And I'm like, for me, it was a gut move, just saying, we're going to stop off here. We're going to continue to shore our foundation up, both financially with shareholders, because immediately, as soon as we reversed, right, as soon as the transaction closed, we gained, I think it was, 900 shareholders or something like that. You have to have a certain amount in order to go to NASDAQ. Well, I think it's 300 or something. We didn't have 300 shareholders right off the bat. So that became a longer process, a more expensive process. Now we're already there. So if you can see this, right? I mean, it's in our letter, the inaugural letter to shareholders. We intend to uplist to a senior exchange. This was just a point that helps us get to that end game that we're looking at.
Welcome to the Wild West of the trading world.
It's kind of fun so far. Yeah.
The OTC is insane. It's fun. That's the edge that we all love in the community about the OTC. So to willingly just dive in, when you could have taken other routes. I think, obviously funding and experience has a lot to do with that. So the stepping stone, I absolutely understand what you're saying. By the way, I gotta say, Jord Hugga, aren't you supposed to be on a plane right now? What's going on, man? But welcome. This guy is awesome.
He's accurate, though. I mean, that just sums up what I just said, right?
Yep, it does. Jord, as you're on the show, he's a contributor too. He's been on the show, and Smart Cat, one of my brothers from another mother, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And he says, Anthony DeVideo, welcome, Lord Hugga. Yes, welcome, Lord Hugga. Two gentlemen that I met actually at the Isla shareholder meeting last year, which was great time. So I want to keep this going. I'm marking your questions, guys.
Yeah,
and I am going to get to a couple of those other questions, but I want to get to the core of this.
Yeah.
So I want you to break this down for the BFC community. Tell us about the intricacies of reach out technology. I know you guys are serving the cybersecurity sector, which had a market size estimated at $222.66 billion in 2023, and it's projected to grow at a compound, oh my gosh, can't talk, annual growth rate of 12.3% by 2023. So talk to us about what you bring to the table. It is a significant improvement. So talk about what you bring to the table, as well as other subsectors that you serve.
Yeah, absolutely. There's most of the companies in this industry as managed service providers, but I'll look at it from the customer side. If you get hacked, if you get breached, whatever it is, you're Googling. It's just like the same thing as like, oh no, my server went down, right? They're Googling IT support in Buffalo, right? Or IT support in Los Angeles. And it still comes up with a bunch of names that have no name recognition whatsoever. And that's the biggest part of about what we're doing, is establishing a nationwide brand. That's why obviously PR is so important. I mean, whether reach outs like the Verizon or the T-Mobile or whatever, it doesn't matter. We're establishing that nationwide brand so people actually have somewhere to turn. That's one of the biggest things. And I think we talked before the show, it's intentional on how polished of an image we present. It's very intentional that way, because if you go to most of the websites, even for some of these smaller companies, and most are under $1 million in revenue, it's very rare, just like any other small business, for any managed service provider to break that 7-figure glass ceiling. And that's because most of it's just a business owner doing a job. They were a technician somewhere, an engineer somewhere within a corporation, may have gotten laid off or decided to start their own gig, and there's a lot of one-man and two-man shops that exists in the industry. And there's a problem with that, because they don't have the financial resources to access the actual tools that they need to truly provide the cybersecurity services to small businesses. The only way to do that is at scale. And that's what I noticed a few years ago, because I still fully believe within the next 3 years, I think there's something like 200 and something thousand of these companies, right? That's all the one-man shops, two-man shops, all the way up to reach out.
Hmm.
I fully believe that a third are going to go away within the next 3 years. Because one, there's a consolidation that's taking place. Private equity is actually gobbling up a lot of the reach outs right now on the private side and just building portfolios. They increase the multiples. It's a greater value than just the sum of its parts, and then they spin it off. But they're not rebranding. They're just leaving them operating independently. They're just increasing the bottom line EBITDA, and that allows them to get a higher profit point, a higher sale price for that entire portfolio. I think it's stupid because it doesn't do anything for the industry. It doesn't do anything for the customers. So for us, we now are large. We're continuing to grow larger. We're growing into the 9-figure mark. We look to be the first billion-dollar valuation MSP for small businesses. And at that scale, we can continue to access the right tools, which are expensive, to deliver the services at a price point that makes sense for small businesses.
So repeat that one more time about the 1 billion valuation.
Yeah, that's our target, man. I mean, that's where we're going. Again, I'll say this again,
you're
right?
going, you're
Yeah.
shooting for the stars.
Oh, hell yeah, absolutely.
It's freaking awesome.
And still, I see that as a stopping off point. Because, I mean, you look at this and you look at the market share that you have, right? The total addressable market, the TAM, it's insane. And that's good. I want others to get their small piece of it. I do, because it's like a bunch of mosquitoes fighting over an elephant. No joke. But if I can get just like, that quarter hind of that elephant, I think we're doing pretty good because that's definitely billion-dollar territory.
Well, that's crazy. Rob, could you actually, I'm going to jump ahead. Could you show that share structure overlay that we put up? And this is what, we were talking about the retiring of over $1 million in debt, and people were asking, are you going to consider tightening up the authorized shares, which I don't think you would do because that's what they're there for, is to use them. They're not in play. It's authorized shares.
Correct.
That has nothing to do with how the stock moves. It's your outstanding share count. And so I noticed there's no restricted shares. Now, this is one thing that really stands out for this stock to me.
It's badass.
Is that there's no restricted. It is badass because you know what? There's not going to be this pumping to unload shares and then it goes down. I mean, we all know it in the OTC. It's very volatile. It is. It's just how it works. So guys, look at this. They're only sitting at a market cap of 2.3 million. And when you talk about, and obviously, he's not talking about getting a $1 billion valuation tomorrow. There are many stepping stones, and here they are. They've taken that first step. So talk to me about the restricted shares going forward. What can we expect to see from you? Are we going to see that are you going to start diluting it to high hell? Are you going to, I mean, it sounds like you have a working, and I want to talk to you more in a second about your business model, but talk about the share structure. Investors want to know about that.
Yeah, today we don't see a need to change anything whatsoever. In the restricted share piece, it's I really, really enjoy that it's a big fat zero. And that was one of the things when we actually saw YCRM, as a reach out, when we saw that as a potential candidate for the merger, is the healthy share structure. We wiped the debt off the balance sheet, the 1.19 million, I believe is what it was that you mentioned, and with that was, I mean, you can view the documents that were filed. That was literally just giving back to the bank the trademarks of Younglings. So wipe out, because we have no interest in that whatsoever. We merged with an existing entity that had a good shareholder base in order to step us up to that level that we needed to continue to take reach out to where we want to go. So I love shareholders, man, for real, and they're the ones that are going to continue to make this possible. I love retail shareholders, especially retail traders, because that's the direction that we're going, especially as we intend to uplist to a senior exchange. We want to make sure that everything is right for them. So when we say wealth, that's another pillar, right? I said first pillar is cybersecurity for all, right? The second pillar is wealth for everybody involved. That's not just people inside the company, insiders, right? That's not just employees. That's not just our customers. That's especially shareholders.
Man, the guys, this is another awesome reverse merger of 2024. And it's still January. It's the 28th. All right. This is going to be a freaking awesome year, especially. And I'm not going to talk about other stocks right now, but I'll save that for the end. But guys, this is exciting. It's exciting. It's exciting to see a zero. All right. So, hey, when some troll says I'm getting
I
I'm
love
getting
some of those
restricted shares
comments I
for
see,
to have
like,
this interview. I
yeah.
could just show them the 0. Hey, look, it's impossible. No, but in all seriousness, I appreciate that answer, and I think shareholders appreciate keeping that as tight as possible,
Yeah.
because that is going to be the ultimate mover. And you know what? You have a nice amount of outstanding shares where you could create nice volume with this stock too.
For sure.
And so and by the way, seeing that this just popped in my head because I go all over the place.
Yeah.
We're working on doing. I just announced a BFC convention in Buffalo, in which we're going to have some of the BFC community, and my goal is it'd be nice to get a good 100 people there
Yeah.
for presentations. So
I'm
you
speaking there,
you have
right?
an open invite
Yeah.
to present for us. So
Dude,
just so
thank
you
you.
know that.
Thank you.
So
I'm
I'll keep
happy.
you in the loop on that. So
I'm
let's
there.
talk a little bit about the business model, and can you actually talk to us too about like one of the biggest security threats that you've seen so far, if you can talk about it?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The business model is very recurring revenue heavy. It has to be in this industry. So when we deliver our service, when we deliver our product, it's very much on a recurring revenue model, high margins. I mean, you'll start to see that as the financials start to trickle out, which we should probably answer that question at some point when they're actually going to be popping out there with our filings. The model is very, very profitable. Prior to any acquisitions, reach out, prove that it was scalable because of how we actually structured internal operations and the services we were delivering to customers. We were running in the 30s as far as net income. It was absolutely fantastic. And I say was because now we bring on acquisitions. Of course, the acquisitions are not quite as profitable. They're running not horrible, right? Because we won't target acquisitions unless they're profitable. We're not out there to save anybody's ass. That's not our position. We need people that already have profitable companies to join this movement that we have. And so when we look at that, they might be in the teens. But we did this even with our first major acquisition. As soon as we took over, within 90 days, we were able to make that thing more efficient and got them from around 16% to about 24%. So just in 90 days, continuing to move it up. And that's just economies of scale and efficiencies that we've made with the company. We're so process oriented within this organization. We're a unicorn in the space. Even to the point to where we got vendors, like there's one called IT Glue that has they're a documentation platform, right? You throw information up there about your customers. You can write your own knowledge base articles. They brought us on just to teach other people how to actually use it. How to actually have this process oriented system. So when we bring people on in acquisitions, it's like, yeah, we really know what the hell we're doing, because as of like last week, we have over 980 self-written articles on how to fix shit, how to handle breaches. So it's done the same way every single time. That's what makes us so scalable, because we inject our operating model and our efficiencies into our acquisitions, increase the net income by double digits, and then also increase the recurring revenue by double digits. And we just keep rinsing and repeating, man. It's amazing.
Wow, it sounds like you have a pattern. You mentioned Kevin Harrington, and that's a name that's been creating a lot of buzz,
Yeah.
in the community. And so, talk about a little bit about your relationship with him, and is there a strong camaraderie being built? Are we going to see him being more vocal in the scheme of things at Reach Out?
Yeah, absolutely. We were just talking on the phone this week, literally about that. And he and I met at it was an entrepreneurial mastermind. It's called Board of Advisors. It was meeting in Sarasota, Florida for the longest time. It's moving to Tampa now, not too far down the street. And with him, I met him, and he was actually going to come speak at one of my events because I met him there. We kind of hit it off. But then we started having breakfast every single quarter at these meetings. I just walked up to him. I'm like, dude, you want some company? He's like, yeah, sure, sit down. So we started to get to know each other. Our second or third breakfast, because we were planning at Reach Out that time for a Regulation A offering, a Tier 2 offering, right? It was our first foray into the public space. Those who don't know Reg A, it allows a private company to sell shares to the public. You still have to have audited financials, and it all makes sense because it gives you a greater level of legitimacy to what you're doing. So talking with him, it was our second or third breakfast. This was in 2019, 2020. And we're starting to form, like you said, the word camaraderie is probably the best term. We're starting to do some content together. We're speaking at some of the same places together. And while we're having breakfast, I'm like, why don't you get involved in this? I'm like, this is my plan and where I'm going. He looks at me. He's like, Rick, I don't get involved in anything I don't understand. and I have no idea what cybersecurity is. I'm like, all right, great. I mean, at that point, I'm like, what do I say to this? I'm like, how are your eggs? We just go right back to breakfast. But then over time, it got to be to where it was 2021. And it was in the middle of a breakfast. And I said, Kevin, it's been another year, man. Come on now. This is the progress that we've made. We're about to launch the Reg A. And he's like, Rick, I still don't understand the business, the industry. And I look at him like, Kevin, it's a roll-up. It's like, oh, well, okay, I could do that. But the way he talks about it, because that's my perspective, right? That's my side of the story. What he has said on stage, because he's introduced me at some big industry events, he's come out and just supports the hell out of me, man, supports the hell out of what we're doing. One of the best things that I'm just humbled to hear from him is that when he introduces me from his side, he goes, during that time period, because I did say no right away, I actually watched Rick. And man, it chokes me up a bit, because he says everything that Rick told me he was going to do and that was going to happen actually happened. And that showed me that he was a guy of integrity, and that's really why I got into business with him. And since then, he's been on the board. He's been an amazing mentor of mine. I mean, even going through working some of the deals, he's jumped on one of our previous acquisitions to actually get it across the finish line with the sellers, and he'll do that anytime. So he's not a hands-off guy when it comes to reach out. He'll jump right into those conversations with sellers to push the stuff across the finish line to get the best deals for us.
That's awesome. And you know what? I think that integrity, and that's for these publicly traded companies in the OTC, those are far and few between. And one thing that we're doing here at the BFC is bringing on the real ones and the ones that have the strongest potential. And so I like what I hear. Guys, make sure you put some. Oh, John Don says right here, going to do a much deeper dive on this company. Thanks for coming on the BFC. Another great supporter there.
Yeah, please do. Yep.
And so I think that's important. People want to be reassured. They don't want a CEO just to blow smoke. And honestly, that's what a lot of it is, because the OTC is very cyclical. There's catalysts, there's times to buy, there's times to sell. Yeah. And it's very pattern based. And you can look at charts and you can look at how PRs are put out. But it looks like you have your sights set on something far bigger. And it's exciting to be, and this is just one of many conversations I assume that we're going to have, because I'm excited and by the way, I'm not a shareholder yet, not yet. But that's what we're here for. We're here to do due diligence, right, guys? So ask your questions. But I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to the journey that you guys are going to be doing. I do want to ask you a couple other questions while I have you here. Do you have a run rate? Hang on. Let me get to this one. G level. All right. Revs and cash flow positive, future financing, convertible notes, or other means.
Yep.
I didn't want to forget to put that
two
up.
questions. Yeah. Revs and cash flow positive. Yes. Yes and yes. We do have revenue and we are cash flow positive. You'll start to see, and this is another good point. It brings us back to where we were sort of at the beginning of the show with the different filings coming out. Because when you see the 10K being filed coming up, that has to do with the fiscal year that ended 10/31/22 for younglings, where there was not revenue. Okay, so the 10K will not show that. But what I understand about this is that there's a section in there about material events that have taken place since the close of the fiscal year, which will obviously mention reach out and the reverse and the transaction that we had, right? But you will still see it's almost like the same old story just because of when that timing was cut off, right? Now, the amended 8K that we're filing for the transaction itself ends at our fiscal year end 22. So when you see that, you're going to see around 4 months of revenue. That's about it, because that's when we acquired our first largest acquisition, and that's the stub period. So future filings after these first few, but those ones that you will see both revenue and you will see cash flow positive on those. And then future filings, of course, will be our entire run rate with all the operating entities and everything, because we had another large acquisition in October of last year, plus the operating company that was originally established 13 years ago. That's all being included from this point on in 2024. So you'll start to see that as a stepping stone in the filings. You'll start to see it kind of trickle up. I mean, I'm kind of excited about it that way because it just shows continuous growth on the numbers, but it's all transparent. Obviously, we're a public and fully reporting company. That's one of the differences, right, between us and other companies on OTC is even at the level that we're at, you don't have to fully report. Yeah, you just don't. It's when you said it's the Wild West, there's a lot less restrictions and barriers to entry, like one of the viewers said. For us, we are choosing to, and this was another reason why we chose YCRM, is because they already were fully reporting,
Hmm.
which helps us get our foundation set, as we were talking about, for our intended uplisting at some point near in the future. So I love that they're asking these questions, and I like to be transparent about this because I'm sure there's going to be people that are not watching the show or watching the chat rooms, because I even jump on the chat rooms, dude. You know, I channel my inner Elon when it comes to that a little bit, you know, I jump right in there. But yeah, they're going to see, of course, with the 10K, they'll be like, WTF. And it's like, no, our transaction took place after the end of that fiscal year by like 9 days. So that filing will be like kind of BC. Reach out as AD. We're after that 0 mark.
Right on. Eric Tracy. Eric Tracy, how you doing, man? Another New Yorker. Hello, neighbor. Any reverse splits coming in YCRM?
There's absolutely nothing planned today, man. We talked about the share structure a little bit. Eric, maybe you signed on a little late. That's okay, man. I appreciate you. Grateful for your question. And our share structure right now, we believe, is completely healthy. It's setting us up for where we want to go.
Right on. Eric Tracy, thanks for the question. Actually, the question that I was going to ask, actually, G. Lavelle actually took it from me once again. Very good. 12-month run rate. That's the question I was going to ask that I couldn't get out.
Yep. Roughly around $1 million a month. So with our 3 operating entities for the last 12 months, for our trailing 12 months, we finished just below 12 million in revenue for 2023.
Wow, that's excellent. That's a great start.
Yeah,
That's
no joke. A great start for an OTC company, right?
Yeah, that is great.
Yeah.
Did you plan? And I just got to ask this because do you plan on doing after a year in maybe an annual shareholder meeting where you do a presentation, like have a thing for shareholders?
I haven't thought about it, but it sounds fun.
Do it.
You know? I mean, we put our
Do it.
letter out there. Yeah, yeah, that sounds like a blast, really, because I mean, that's right in my wheelhouse, and I just love to do that anyways.
You
It
would
be
love it.
virtual, of course.
You
Yeah.
would eat that right
Yeah.
up. I
Yep. You want to
guarantee
be
it.
our MC?
Hey, sure. Well, you know what? See, I'm already trying to drag this guy to the BFC convention, but no, I think like those corporate presentations and presentations
Yeah.
where people could actually interact with you and meet you face to face. You know, this is the thing, and I know I've had CEOs on the show that they don't cower and hide. They are out there. They're engaging with
Yep.
the shareholders. They're engaging with the public. They're answering the hard questions and keeping it real. And so, you know, so I'm just looking at the comment. 20% profit. John Don wants to know about the profit rate, profit margin.
Yeah. We're still hitting right about that for
Yeah.
sure. Yep.
Excellent. That's
It's cool
excellent.
how you look at like the pro forma, which the pro forma will be in the filings too. And I'm saying this because I actually haven't seen that pro forma yet, you know, myself personally, but I've seen the numbers that are going into it, and I love where the cash flow goes over the next 12 months, over the next actually 3 years, which I think is where the pro forma is going to run.
Hmm. Okay. Um, I want to talk about 5 years from now. I know
Yeah.
this is a silly question, but it's really not. Where do you vision you guys being in 5 years? Revenues, employee count. By the way, how many employees do you have?
You know, I saw that in your notes, and I was actually looking because with our acquisitions and everything, it's like I didn't actually know where we sat until that's because we're still hiring internally too. You know, and that's the thing because we're growing. So I looked, and we're sitting at it's like 66 or 67 employees
Oh,
currently. So it's just under 70.
nice.
Yeah,
Not a small operation.
it's not. No,
It's
not,
under a
not in the
penny,
slightest.
ladies and gentlemen. Just saying.
Yeah.
No restricted shares. It's under a penny, and this guy knows what he's doing. All right, and he knows his shit. He knows how to fix shit, as he said earlier.
Fix shit. I love that. It was I was just corrected. 68. Okay, there we go.
68.
Yes.
There it is.
I've got good team that's feeding me the info here, right? But yeah, it's good. You know, you talked about people in person too, but I can give you some of our future plans that I'm glad he knows how to fix shit. That's great. I see.
That's Lisa
Thanks,
Matthews.
Lisa. Yeah. But it's you're talking about engaging with people. It's like one of our methods coming up too, man, is we're hosting I don't know anybody that's doing this. We're hosting sellers dinners for those who we're launching those next month to help find acquisitions for us, but also give people an idea for those who have said, "Hey, I want to sell." You know, within the industry, of course, like companies, you know, I don't know what the next step is. Yeah, so it's kind of cool. We're going to get people around, and I'm going to be at every single one of them this year. We're hosting, I think, around 2 a month for the
Wow.
next year. So we've got a great pipeline that's already full.
Wow.
We actually, even as of this last week, have entered into another agreement, which you'll probably see a PR for another acquisition just within this last week. So we've got a great strategy going forth, with especially with my VPs that surround me, like Ryan Luring, who you met a little bit earlier, our VP of Operations, and Ashley Kedger, our VP of M&A. Just amazing people I've got in my inner circle.
That's amazing. I wanted to throw a comment up here from another BFC original, Rob Stolarchuk. Thanks, Rick. I signed on late, but I will definitely review this video and look deeper into YCRM. Rob's a great guy. Shout
Very
out to you,
cool.
Rob.
Hey, Rob.
All right. So I did before you go. I did want you to talk a little bit about Liberty Lockdown. Now, I've seen portions of it. 2020 and 2021 with COVID and everything was a wild year. It was crazy. A year of unprecedented action and non-action. Tell us about. Actually, I bought it and I told you I was gonna listen to it or watch it this weekend, and time gets away. Kids. That'll happen. They take
I
their time.
understand.
So
Completely.
but I have seen clips of it. Tell us about that project and how it came to fruition. I mean, we know what fueled it, but
Yeah.
who took initiative on that?
Yeah, that was myself and a friend of mine. He became a really, really good friend of mine through this project. He's a filmmaker out of LA. And we met each other because we filmed a couple of pieces for documentaries that are on Amazon right now, Amazon Prime, Cybercrime. There's Cybercrime 1 and Cybercrime 2. They're documentaries. And that's how I met this guy, Jeff Roldan. And when we went into this, remember I was talking like at the beginning, it's like, why did I start a podcast? And it was because my branding agency told me, hey, you need a podcast. So it was 2020. I was still working with this branding agency. Now we've got a full internal team, but with these guys, I was in Bellevue, Washington, right? Which, I mean, that was ground zero for COVID. That's where the first case was out there. And I was there, and that's when the news broke. I was literally there when the news broke.
I remember
And
that.
it was the weirdest thing, man, because I took like videos in the airport. I'm looking around and I'm seeing like flights being canceled. Everybody got off the streets. And this was before there was any lockdowns. It was like the early days of March. And in Bellevue, in Seattle, people were freaking out already because you just didn't know what was going on. So in the middle of my shooting out there, I mean, film shooting, everybody, right? Podcast recording. Okay. Yeah, that's what we call it in the media industry. We were shooting. Okay. Well, while I was out there, I start looking around and we're right in the middle of that. And I'm looking out like the windows. I'm like, this is kind of eerie. I think I should hop a plane back home just to make sure that I can get back home. So I go to the airport, and it's the first time I'd ever been in. And again, before any restrictions, the airport was empty, no lines, no nothing. And that freaked me out in and of itself. So then we spoke about a week later. He approached me, and it was more so for the financial side of things. He approached me. He's like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. You've been great in the other two docs. We get along well. And I'm like, yeah, dude. I'm like, I think this will be a fun ride, because I think this is something that should be documented by a lot of people, not even just us, but by a lot of people, because who knows what's going to happen over the next several months. And it turns out it was the next several years, that we saw all of these things happen. I said, it's just one condition, and that's that I host the thing.
That's
it's like
cool.
I was already doing TV and everything else. So it's like, I'm no schlub when it comes to being in front of a camera. He's like, well, I never thought about a host. That sounds pretty awesome. I'm like, cool. Because otherwise it would have been like a traditional doc or something like that. Right. So yeah, I narrated and hosted in a couple of spots in it. And we took about 3 months to film that thing. And it was wild because, I mean, standing in May of 2020, our first city was San Francisco. Just it was like zombie apocalypse.
Crazy.
Nobody on the streets, nobody driving. And it was cool because I got to bring my oldest son along for that too. I mean, there was no restaurants open really. We were in a hotel and we were ordering burgers from a place across the street. And the phrase like curbside delivery. It was literally curbside. In San Francisco, we walked up to the door, not like, you have to stand at the curb. Like, what? Yes, you have to wait on the curb. Like, I'm glad there's no traffic, like literally no traffic at all, no cars. Like, okay, like stand right there. And then they would bring out, I mean, masks, gloves, everything, and bring out our burgers to us. And we had to bring them back to the hotel and eat them. But going through all this and seeing these things, I mean, one of the things I'll never forget was Lindsey Graham, not the senator. Right? She was the salon owner in Salem, Oregon. You know, she made a lot of big headlines, man. And that's because OSHA and the state, they were trying to shut her salon down because she chose to stay open. Now, you can look this up. And when I went out there to interview her, there was a dude that came by with a pizza box and slammed it on the window right in the middle of the interview. You can see this in the film, too.
Wow.
And it said, "You're not a hero, you're a killer." You know,
Wow.
and yeah, it was insane. And then
It is insane.
I can't remember the death threat, but there was a death threat running underneath that. So I walked out. I mean, I remember I told you like I was going to be a cop, all that. I actually, at the time, owned a private protection agency as well. So I just walked right out there, grabbed it and everything. I'm like, it's on a pizza box. The reason it was on a pizza box is because the night before that, with all the riots in Portland and Salem, because Salem's the state capital, she had 85 retired vets with ARs guarding her salon. And
Good.
she bought them all pizza. That's where the
wow.
pizza box came from the night before, so that the rioters wouldn't smash in the windows. You know, but seeing all that firsthand was just an experience. I'm grateful that I was like literally a ground zero in all these cities just to experience it in a way that most Americans would not have. Seeing all these weird things take place, you know, and all the while thinking it's like, I have reach out and I'm classified as critical, right? Critical infrastructure. All of my people can work. You know, and it was just the weirdest thing for somebody to be able to tell someone else, no, you can't work. You know, and this isn't
It's
like a political
insane.
thing or anything else.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
It's
and
just,
that's it. There's no political side to this. That's why I was debating even bringing this up on the show, because I'm like, you know, I could get into politics, but like
yeah,
the COVID thing and the lockdown thing, it was like them versus us being business owners, people,
exactly.
and it was all of us. People have lost personal relationships because of one person not wanting to wear a mask, or you know, whatever it may be. Businesses, people got arrested. They told you, don't go to the gyms, don't work out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and that's when because literally did nothing for 2 months. I'm like, all right, so the kids didn't see the grandparents. I'm like, after 2 months, I'm like, screw this. I go, this is absurd. I go, you know, they're missing time with their grandparents, are missing time with, you know, I know people that I had COVID bad and it sucked. I was laid up for quite a long time.
Oh man.
Yeah, and I took ivermectin, guys, and I was back to work within 2 days. Swear to God, not even joking.
I took turmeric and I was back to work in 2 days.
No, you know, it's just crazy. But like there was a ton of misinformation out there.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just it blows my mind that we let it get as far as it did.
Yeah.
The riots that they funded, and now we could go on a whole like down the spiral here, you know, but the truth is that all that was permitted to happen. Nobody did anything about it. There were people, mass gatherings, cities burning,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that was able to happen. But you know, you couldn't go to the gym and work out, or you had to be on a treadmill, you know, 4 treadmills away from somebody else. And
Yeah.
if the gym was full, you couldn't go. It doesn't
Yeah.
make sense.
You couldn't
It
eat
doesn't make sense.
inside unless the inside was outside.
And the scary thing is that we all did it. I mean,
Yeah.
I eventually said no, but like we all went along with it. We all went along with it, and it's like that's crazy, you know. So that's just a little bit. I can't wait to watch the whole
It's cool. It's
show.
not politically charged at all, and we did that intentionally when we made it. It's just laid out like a lawyer would lay out a case in a courtroom. You know, it's just facts. You know, it's like this is what happened. It's like Andrew Cuomo sent people from the nursing home that were sick, or from the hospital that were sick, back to the nursing homes. You know, so there's like real stuff that took place right there. You know, so in hindsight, I think it's actually more relevant today than it was even then. You know, because back then we got turned down by, you know, Netflix. It's like Amazon declined us literally forever with no appeal
Wow.
option. But that's when all the politics were at the height of their charge, is
Yeah.
when we were trying to get it on the platform.
Major
you know?
censorship.
Yeah,
Major
exactly.
censorship.
Yep. It's a little different today because now it's like, oh wait, everything that you said was, it's just, I was talking like with Kevin, it's like everything that you said was actually thinking like the conspiracy. It's like all of it ended up being true.
And it
Okay.
ended up being true. And I actually followed I actually subscribed to the Epoch Times. A great newspaper. I love it.
Yeah.
And they were laying it out as it was happening. And that was an alternative news source, of course, you know, so
Yep,
it didn't, didn't get mainstream attention, but a lot of what they said, 100% true. And it's like, what happened? I mean, I don't care what happens. If my father's dying, if my mother's dying, and I
Yeah.
want to go say my respects to them and have a last moment with them, I should be allowed to do that regardless. I shouldn't
Yeah.
be doing it over freaking iPad,
Yeah,
and
right on.
so I think there were some liberties that were taken advantage of, and taken
For sure.
away, literally taken away.
For sure.
And the shaming that was done was just crazy. It was just crazy, and it's like you said, it's not a political thing; it's a human thing.
Yeah.
This was like, you know, equals dumb humans. Like,
Yeah, no joke.
that's why I said action versus non-action. The people didn't, if you spoke up about it, you get like, oh, can't say that in this group or whatever. It was very, very awkward,
It was for
and
sure. And
people
yeah.
lost friendships. I know family members that don't even talk to each other anymore because of it.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
crazy.
Well, the
Um,
biggest reason I did it, man, is because I wanted to help some of the truth get out there, like literally be a ground zero and film some of this stuff. So it's kind of the same scenario with reach out. It's like it's a big thing. It's like here's the
mm,
truth about the breaches. Here's the truth about our share structure. And it's completely transparent. It's another reason I went the public route
mm,
rather than staying private is because everything is out there in the open.
yeah.
I think it gives us a lot of opportunity to be able to say, hey, we are what we are. You want to
Mm,
jump on board this train? That's awesome because I know that we're going places. I hope that you come along with us. If you choose not to, that's okay too. But
mm,
just don't have the regret at some point. I'm talking acquisitions. I'm talking
yeah.
stockholders. Everybody. I think somebody asked. I didn't answer the question about convertible notes or other means for future acquisitions. Right? We've got a lot of strategies for that too. If you don't mind me answering these questions, if that's okay, real quick,
No,
Eric.
no. The
Yeah.
show's yours.
We have a lot of strategies for acquisitions. One, of course, involves shares because let's be real, shares are currency, period. Right. And when it comes to that, we don't want to lock up too much with convertible notes. That just doesn't make sense to me. I would just rather have them be liquid because that's an attractive part of our acquisitions when they sign on, that it's like, oh, wow, I could just hold this and go to the moon with you guys, but we like giving people the choice. You saw 0 restricted shares. I don't like the lockups for people. But there's other means too. I mean, even with our pro formas, we can do some of it with debt. It doesn't matter,
Mm,
because the cash flow plays out when you're talking in the 20s and 30s for net income. It just does play out. It's simple
mm,
math when it comes to that portion, right? And I think somebody else, is AI a big part of cybersecurity? Of
yep.
course, absolutely it is. Yeah, right on it is. We currently use AI right now, and we've been using it for years. And this is another reason why I was talking like the small companies, the small service providers are not going to work out so well, and why there's probably going to be about a third of them that are just gone in the next 3 years
Mm,
because they don't have financial access to these resources that exist. Before it used to be, hey, if I download a PDF, I've got antivirus, and the antivirus looks at it and says, oh, it's cool, it's a PDF, right? But now the case is, because that's old fingerprint tech, the AI that exists right now is it takes a look at these things and it says machine learning. It's like, why is that PDF when you open it trying to contact Wuhan? You like my callback there? Why is it going out there to talk to Putin? Why is it doing those things? So then it analyzes it and looks at the behavior and learns from it and says, oh, okay, now it's trying to move itself to this other computer in the network, to the
mm,
server, all of that, shuts it down. It can respond quick enough to lock it down to where we still have humans that review it, of course, because sometimes, rare circumstances, you need it to do that.
mm,
Most of the time not. But that AI catches these things way quicker than what the
yeah.
old school crap does. But that stuff, it's expensive because it's newer, especially in the commercial sector, it's expensive. And that's why in large quantities, we can acquire what we need, the tools to do that, to bring it down to a good price point for everyone.
Right on. I want to. John Don had one question before you go. And by the way, this is why I always joke like, oh, we'll keep it to a half an hour. That's why I love doing these shows, is because, hey, this is what we do.
I
Dating from
saw
the
some of your
source.
shows that were like 16 minutes. I didn't watch them. I'm like, that was probably a shitty guest. I was looking at your YouTube channel.
What's your
Yeah.
favorite color? All right. No, real simple questions. What's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? All right. Invest, guys.
Yeah.
How
Those
do
are
you
not the stocks to invest in, okay?
do not
The
invest?
16-minute shows are the stocks not to invest in.
All right. So how do you compare to CrowdStrike?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I actually get this one a lot. CrowdStrike is one of those tools that I'm talking about, like the AI-based tools. So they manufacture the stuff, right? Whereas Reach Out bundles a lot of these things together to provide the actual service. CrowdStrike covers one thing that we call like it's called an attack vector. So when a hack can come in one particular way, There's still a lot of other ways using different methods that people can be breached. A lot of them actually involve the humans inside. So we will use something like CrowdStrike. Our choice along the same route when it comes to that type of product is actually SentinelOne. You can look them up. Huge company, right? Humongous market cap. Very, very good product. We take that plus 30 some other things to actually deliver the service in addition to the people. So where we're not CrowdStrike, the best analogy I've used so far, it's like if I have a toolbox filled with DeWalt or Milwaukee tools or something like that, I probably have several of different brands in my toolbox. That's what Reach Out is. So we've got CrowdStrike, we've got SentinelOne, we've got SonicWall. We've got all these different things that exist within the toolbox to actually go out and hang the cabinets if we were a carpenter. The whole goal, the desired end state, is to have the cabinets on the wall, look good, and not fall down. Right? But we need different tools to be able to do that. Not just one tool, not just a CrowdStrike, but we need multiple tools to be able to make that happen.
Right on. I hope that answers your question. John Don, Barry the Great. Barry the Great always has good questions too. Nice to see you guys. And guys, what stocks do you want to talk about in a couple minutes? Just let me know. I'm going to give you updates on where I'm at. I'm not Jordan, Rick Jordan, Mr. Rick Jordan. Man,
that was what my baseball coach would call me all the time, man.
This has been a great maiden voyage, my friend.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
It was my pleasure to be here, man, for real. I love the conversational flow. You got a great show.
Well, I can't wait to have you on again. And one thing that I want to do, if you could just hang out backstage for a couple minutes so we could just have a debrief. And once again, thank you very much. Now get this guy out of here. Get him out of here. But what a nice guest. I'm looking forward to learning more. They definitely seem like their business model is on point. And I will probably end up buying shares in the next couple of weeks. It's good. It's going to be a good year. All right. So I'm going to give you guys a little rundown. Yes, Jordan. I'm an eyeless boy. Yes, I am. Maybe I'm a little eyeless boy. Where is eyeless? What do I think it's going to do? I think it's going to retrace this week. I think it's going to go down. And I'm going to buy more because I have a great feeling about what they're doing. And I believe they're trying their ass off and they are going through hell and high water to get out of the OTC. I don't think that they're going to throw shareholders under the bus. I do think that can talk about eyeless later. Yeah, no, well, I think that it is going to, I think it's going to retrace. I think that we had quite a surge in share price. So I think it's going to go to doubles again. Maybe not. Maybe. Who knows? If it, I don't care if it does because I'll buy more. It'll be a better price point for me and anybody else that wants to. I've already doubled my position. I got in that 007 mark and it was great. So yes, eyeless is looking spicy. I love it. I think that I'm going to get a good entry. Get the average down. My average right now is 5.5 cents, down from 10.5. And so I would love to get that down to 2 to 3 cents. And that's where I'm at with eyeless. Another one that I'm looking for that I'm very excited about is IGPK. We're talking about possibly a $7 billion company, USD, rolling into IGPK. All right. Now, I covered this one when it was, the integrated cannabis solutions. It's still technically called that. But I had Gene on the show. I had the old management on the show, but they sold out. They literally gutted the company and sold. So they must have gotten a very decent deal. I hope I get a chance to have Gene on and so we could talk about the reverse merger process so we can learn more about what really happened. But it looks like this company being rolled in is freaking enormous. And based on the valuation and based on the share count and the share structure, if this is true and they end up rolling in the whole company, yes, we're talking $1.75 share price. Do I think it's going to go to $1? No, I do not. Don't think that a 00 stock is going to go to $1. I don't think it's going to happen. Will I complain? And Rob, you could take this clip right here and make an ass out of me right now if it does. And I'll gladly own it because I'll be making a lot of money. All right. So the truth is that I don't think it's going to do that. It depends on what percentage of June Fen Wang that they're actually going to be rolling into this OTC ticker. All right. So where do I stand in it? I don't have a plan. All right. The old plan is out the window. The 1.5 to 2 cent share price target that management have is out the window because we are now in uncharted waters. There's a new reverse merger coming in. And so, I've purchased what I'm going to purchase. I'm not slapping it anymore. That's why I got in. That's why I was at the BFC got in at that 0007, sitting at 900% gains, give or take 800%. Yeah, I'm bragging a little bit, but I'm proud of it. I'm proud of being able to call that one. Now, I didn't call it as a reverse merger play. A little bit of luck there, right? G. Lavelle, YCRM is very exciting. Reach out IT. Yeah, I definitely think it's exciting. I probably will end up gobbling up some shares in the near future. And so, yeah, I mean, so ILIS, IGBK, and CYBL. I know that's one that we're looking forward for. The CE coming off is going to happen. We'll find out. This is the journey. The journey is great, and taking the risk is great, but also doubling down and what you have conviction is important. All right. And I can't stress that enough. While people are complaining, about the share price, work a little extra, average down, especially if you really believe in the company. Talking about ILIS, there's going to be some changes. He said directly, look at that December 29th PR. And I urge all of you to read it again. So a little unconventional, but they could reverse merge ILIS directly into a big board. And they're trying to do it without a reverse split. Whether or not that happens, they really want to they've paid their dues in the OTC. They're building their business. Have they learned lessons? Yes. Are they perfect? No, they're not. Nobody is, but I know they're sincere. I know the management team is integral. I know that these are real good people. Anytime I've talked to JP, anytime I've talked to Nick or anybody involved with the team, they're sincere and they mean well. And if they wanted to rug pull investors, they would have done it already. Hey, it's me. Brian is excited for IGBK this week. So yeah. So here's another one. Triple DX on Twitter. Triple DX news coming in weeks regarding power moves. Anyone know anything? I don't know anything right now. Right now, we're sitting with our shares and that's it. Yes, we have restricted shares in that one at the BFC club. All right. And so we're going to see what happens. We're going to see what happens with that. I understand that the excitement behind metal printing isn't, it's not like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. But if they have a good business model and they're getting contracts in those government contracts that Nick talked about on the show, that could be very lucrative, and that's going to affect the share price moving forward. And hopefully, I want to see that thing move north very, very soon, especially by May 4th, because that's when my shares become available. So, but yeah, that's sort of where we're at. Paul, BFC, going to have any hats in merch anytime soon? Hey, Sam, if you're watching, let's get some hats, flat tops. Let's do it. All right, guys. Any thoughts at looking more at IQST? It's on the radar. It's completely undervalued. They're working that new deal now. That's another company that, and this is the whole thing. And this is ILIS and IQST got a lot of attention. Basically, Alpha Status stocks covered them back in the day, and they did the that 5,000 to 100,000 challenge. I remember watching it. It was great. And I remember Andrew won because of the five that he invested in ILIS, and ILIS went on that tear. And IQST was what's his name? Picked the other one. Mike picked the other one. And so ILIS, he won with that money, which is like with that ILIS run, which was great. I mean, that's cool. But looking at it now, it's ridiculous. The company is undervalued. All right. Look at the balance sheet. Look at the filings. All right. I'm not going to go over it now. You could beg Sam Aker to do that. Where is Sam Aker been? Where in the world is Sam Aker? I just want to see DDDX get cash flow positive. I agree. Triple DX is fire. All right. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Guys, just follow your gut. Do the reading. Do the research. Do the due diligence. It's important. All right. Really double check, triple check all information sources. Don't take my word for it or anybody else's word for it on Twitter or StockTwits. Do your due diligence. That's it. But that's all I got. We just had a killer interview. I'm going to go hang out backstage with Rick Jordan and actually his executive director, Ashley Kedra's backstage as well. So I won't hold her feet to the fire this time. I let her hang out backstage, but hopefully she'll be joining us along with Rick next time as well. But That's all I got. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. It's gonna be a great week. You got to tell yourself that it's going to be a great week. All right, that's it. That's all I got. And remember, there is more that binds us than breaks us. You guys have a great night. Peace out.